How's it going? Been a while. I had to clear some of my own personal blockers. What a fun trip, and I'll make a bit of a video on that later on, or maybe it'll be on TikTok. We'll see what happens. Could be on the podcast. You know where to find me. Still, recently on TikTok, especially in the last few days, I've been posting this series of snippets, 3 minutes, helping people to break out of the mental matrix. What I kind of consider the mental matrix is everything that's kind of keeping us bound, but from our own perception, our own mind, which is, you could say, what we have been taught to consider as fixed and stale, but it's not real. Mostly because, as we already spoke, and I'm gonna repeat it again, all these words, terminologies, and definitions you weren't born with. And also, you've noticed how they change year per year. Still, that'll be the starting point here, because basically I'm gonna try to make a bit more of an expanded video on it. There's a lot of things that can't really be said in 3 minutes blast, and there's a lot of nuances that can be explained, which will then become simplistic or simple afterward. So it's always good to have that back and forth, and this is where you got to train your patience, mostly because you've been led to having smaller and smaller patience. Let me take that back. We have been led to having smaller and smaller patience. I'm not taking myself out of that. The reason I'm able to perceive it and eloquently explain it is because I was knee deep, head deep into the matrix myself, and then started noticing like it breaking apart. Okay, you guys know how it was, right? I told you about my childhood. You're not Haitian enough because you like anime and video games. A couple of years later, oh, that shit switches, right? But that's already being out of one matrix box. Then the second one, ooh, church, you gotta believe in this religion, you gotta absolutely believe, even though there's been some real fucked up discrepancies spotted at a young age. Outside of that matrix, school system, you're going to private school, this is definitely helping you, and just not necessarily having this good feeling when working in that system, because I wasn't learning the way that I love to learn. I wasn't learning what I love to learn, and I wasn't necessarily using the methods that were proactive for me. And the same kind of goes for a lot of people. So that's outside of another box, and then it goes into the word box. You start seeing what I mean, right? Multiple boxes started to crumple up and crash down, leading me to start asking questions and starting to look not just at the West, but looking at the East as well. Various other parts in Europe, of course. But it's opening one's mind to kind of look into multiple places and kind of go, oh, okay, wow, so yeah, in the West we have a certain matrix. In the East there is also another certain kind of matrix, but it's different kind of ideas of what reality is. And it's only when, not saying only when, but the facilitation of your life happens when you look at all these interconnected pieces, not just one. Still, let's get in the game. Again, the message to be hammered and repeated over and over and over again in the mind, because it's logic. It is complete 100% logic. Anybody who goes against that has either forgotten how they were born, or is just doesn't want to let go of one of their beliefs. And that is, we are all born the same fucking way. No words, no memory, no definitions. Okay? None of that. There is no guru babies born with English, teaching wisdom to the other people in kindergarten, already saying mama, papa as soon out of the womb. In any language, okay? It is not there yet. Fingers crossed it's gonna happen, but it is not there. So we are all born the same way. None of that. Thus, no logical or emotional attachment to any of it. Any baby looking at this video or at this 4 minute, up to 5 minute, will not understand what 5 minute, what these words are, what this is, what this is. No idea of any concepts, okay? Thus, no emotional or logical attachment to it. There is no logic to it, all right? This is absolute fact, logical, all right? From that point, that birth point, that initial point, we are then taught by our environment, okay? Our parents, media, school, society, okay, at that time. But always remember that data set that is then in the mind, which again is partially you because there's the soul that came in without all of that, okay? But all of that, that partial set, that data, changes every couple of years, okay? What was not accepted at one point was accepted at another point. Remember the church example, Church 1.0, women are not accepted because of Eve and blah, 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 blah. Then 2.0, oh, they're accepted, but not people of color because blah, 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 blah. 3.0, oh, people of color are accepted, but not the gays, you know? 4.0, oh, the gays are accepted, but not the trans and lesbian. See what I mean? Same kind of happened in society, okay? You cannot logically ignore that because it has happened, and even in this day and age, in the last 10 to 20 years, it's gone into supersize, right? Much, much faster. A lot of things are kind of opening up much faster compared to before, where there had to be an amazing amount of pressure to change. So here's the deal. As you understand this logically, you can also get good or get pro player and skip out on this aspect of this is accepted, this is not accepted. You know, all this data, what we're given is duality. This good, this bad, this right, this wrong. All of that, and again, now we're leading into comparison, okay? All of that, just a trivial piece of data from a pocket-sized group compared to the 8 billion that we are getting to on this planet. So that's kind of like saying, hey, everyone's gonna have the same idea of polarity in comparison, right? If you're not that, then you don't have it. Or if you're not it's tricky to put in phrase. It's like cold for someone could be hot for someone who has lived in colder places. Can you understand that just sheer simple logic, right? Hot, or you could say food that is hot and spicy could be completely fucking mild to somebody that had even tougher spices or more hot spices depending on the country and the culture. All right? Do you get that? You can no longer generalize or remain at surface level comparisons. So in order to get good, just skip out on it. Don't be so anchored and attached, especially when those pieces of data that you, again, weren't born with, when that piece of data causes you depression and anxiety because you were taught to compare on a very surface level, basic ass main character type of way of thinking, you know? Again, another good example, standards of beauty. Roll your eyes, because when you get out of the West and you just go into other countries, it is something completely different. And also, that is not taking into account I'm just gonna call it 8 billion because we're gonna reach that number. 8 billion of different perspectives and different preferences from everyone's individual granular day per day, minute per minute, second per second experiences with all 5 to 6 senses. This is illogic to just kind of anchor at a core, because then you start noticing how illogical this division, combat, and then need for other to adhere to some general surface level bullshit in order to feel good is. So it's kind of like saying, I need other people to follow that one religion, or else I'm not feeling good, or else I react, or else I consider them heathen, thus I'm reacting negatively to their present. This is how, in a way, and when you get this, this is how you can see how society fucked with perception. Indirectly, without necessarily knowing. We're at a point where we kind of get this because it makes a lot more sense, and our intercommunication around the world with the internet, biggest double-edged sword out there, that intercommunication help us to open up about these things and not remain so rigid, because why would we at this point, right? So when you understand this and you are able to logically, like, have that mind with all this data, logically understand this, you let go of anxiety, you let go of judgment, you let go of comparison. You don't judge yourself and anyone else. Again, that data changes. And you're going to be arrogant enough to say that your pocket billion thinking about that is somewhat more right than the collective of 8 billion? Really now? Don't worry, this is not being pointing you out and calling you out. This is just kind of putting an emphasis on it, as well as reminding you that you weren't born with it. So you were led to acting that way. You were led to thinking that way. Now, how? How were you led for it? As explained, the influence of your environment, of your media. Same goes for your video games and movies, right? Same goes for your TV shows. It's not to say that they're bad. Gotta be careful. You don't necessarily want to stick to surface level when I say these things. It is not to say that they are absolutely bad. It is to say that the repetition of a very simplistic way of perceiving life, of perceiving people in general, of perceiving stereotypes. Again, this is all surface level being shown and repeated. But that repetition over an amount of time makes it seems normal to think that way. Hey, sometimes you're even pressured into it. When it comes to school, you gotta fit the social norms, right? You gotta fit the social game, right? So fit the social game or else. That kind of pressure, that fear pressure in the mind, leaves the subconscious open for indoctrination. Easy. Now, yes, from 0 to 9, indoctrination was direct. Indoctrination, or I should say, the subconscious was open. So any implantation of whatever it is, indoctrination doesn't necessarily mean bad. Yet anything part of that, what's been said, what you've been taught, will go directly in the subconscious. Any experiences that had very big emotional reaction will remain in the subconscious, which is not a logical part of the brain. Thus, it remains in the body as a body reaction, because the body holds memory. Water holds memory. Get your quantum physics up to date, people. Water holds memory as well. We're about to get some of those cell processor with water. This is really fucking cool. But water holds memory. Body 80% water, but still, your body holds that. So when it comes to traumas, especially early on, and this could be a big key for you. I've spoke about it before, but I'll rehash it here again. When the body has a reaction, pause and ask it, if I knew where it came from, if I knew what it meant, what would it be? And just go with it. You'll kind of click in on it and try it a couple of times. Still, that initial indoctrination can leave you with non-perceivable traumas that are just lodged in the body. So it's not logical. Like I told you, this event that happened with my dad passed on, but still, it has happened. This aspect where I was 3-year-old, went outside, first time that I could go outside, you know, in the streets and playing in the streets because my parents were scared. Again, they came back from the old country, but first time I was allowed. Played with the neighbors. Their mom was really glad that they were making new friends, that I was playing with them, so she gave me water. My dad was furious for some reason. I didn't know at the time, okay? ordered me to come right back in and, you know, fear trigger. Oh shit, what's going on? And then when I went inside, bam, straight up hit. And ever since that point until recently, accepting, receiving things from other people was the hardest thing. Because subconsciously my body's like, oh shit, receiving things? Happiness? Because there was a trauma to it, you know? And there was the explanation, oh, you could have been poisoned. We're only doing this because we love you. And then that's another negative anchoring of the word love to something that wasn't even near it. So the subconscious does not make logical sense. It does not. And yes, it's a bit of work to clear it, but it leads to one heck of an expansion personally. And again, no one else would know, because how could they read my mind, right? Of course not. Nobody can read minds to that degree or even have context. And this is where we get to one key ass point that will just break away judgment and comparison. You will never know anyone else's context aside from your own, because you are not living through their eyes and their five senses. So when you are told gossip or whatever, okay, and you assume out of another person, you're just being a fool. Literally being foolish. If you assume something from someone else, then that's like saying, oh yeah, I definitely live their context. I definitely live what they live. I obviously know what has led it to this point, right? No, you fucking don't. No, you fucking don't. But we collectively have been led to this kind of basic ass, bitch ass, basic ass main character mentality because of repetition in media. Hell, you look at the news, it's just that, practically. Assume a lot of things. Condemn Johnny Depp before you actually know what has been lived. I didn't even give a fuck about the trials because I wasn't there. Why would I need that extra information? I wasn't there. I ain't judging the guy. I ain't judging her as well. I don't care. But this is what we are often led when it comes to media. And this is where you gotta watch your mental diet. This becomes key in our life. The mental diet is whatever you read, whatever you listen, whatever you watch, and whatever you regurgitate. Because as it comes in, it then goes out. Again, repetition makes it normal to say, see, believe, and act this way. Remember, there was a point where we all believed in Santa Claus, right? It's not to say that that was bad. It is just to make you aware that with that knowledge and that belief, you have acted in different ways. You have felt in different ways. Okay? That's big. That's like one belief changing your day-to-day mood because it has changed your day-to-day perception. Right? Remember 9/11, right? Immediate media bombardment, anti-Arabs, anti-Taliban, anti-Quran. And then look at the fucking bullying it created on certain people that weren't even fucking part of this. One change of belief affected so many. Don't take this lightly. This is one thing could easily change the rest of your day and create a momentum that would affect the rest of your life. So you gotta hold that mental diet like a motherfucking beast guardian at this point. Doesn't matter who you are, what sex, what gender, what pronoun, it doesn't matter. You want to keep your mental diet in check, because this will then both affect you and by proxy ripple out to the people around you. If you're going out there with a negative belief about yourself or anyone else, you will act according to it. You will also project that energy. And hey, if you don't believe in energy, I'm sorry. We got quantum physics, we got metaphysics, we got spirituality, we got the ancient texts. I can't put it in better words, but to tell you to get up to date or it's game over. Meaning, this is not to tell you and to shun you and to point fingers and to say you got to believe in one thing or one and done. No. The information is out there. You can look at declassified documents, you can look at other people's experience, you can make your own tests. Okay? Taking 5 to 10 minutes every day to make your own test. But you want to get in on this shit. You want to look at the multiple perceptions of what reality's fabrics are around the world, just to connect the dots and get a better understanding of what we are currently dealing with, this idea of solid reality. Because we playing with energy, baby, and that shit is at your advantage. It is everyone's birthright. Everyone is doing it without necessarily knowing. It's funky, but there we are. And if you're not going to get up to date with it, then there's a high chance that certain people with lucrative intent or monetary investments in you following what they push out, that will literally use it on you. This little thing called neurolinguistic programming, go check out one of the past videos. I even had an audiobook by Joe Dispenza explaining it to you, and you can even go check it out with Tony Robbins or various other people. It's a start to understanding it, but there's more and more levels to it, or there's more and more nuances to it. Shouldn't say levels. Nuances to it that can help you or hinder you. You just want to get a hold onto it, yet this is where you gotta, how do I say this? Reach Faith 2.0. I consider Faith 1.0 to be, this is only this one religion, this one way of seeing things, this one way of believing, this one way of acting, this one science. Nope, I'm not gonna listen to anything else. Get up to date to Faith 2.0. We've seen how that fucked with people back in history, right? How people were crusading, fighting amongst each other. And here's the fucking down and basic irony of it. When you logically understand that people over the world, again, same planet, have been explaining that one source, that one God, that one creator, that one universe through different lenses, okay? Which is normal and completely logic because, again, we're all born the same, but then we get affected by our environment. And different places around the world, different environment, right? Thus, different filters to that one source interconnected with all of us, okay? Completely logical. Different filters of the mind for that energy, which is our core from when we were born. Again, you're not born with that filter, you're born from that source. And then the mind filters it based on what we have been taught and conditioned. So if you're going to stick to the one and done Faith 1.0, basic bitch level of one, you know, the one religion, the one science, the one message, you're done. Your game's over. Because once something is going to come to challenge or show an alternate facet of that Faith 1.0, you will stop your expansion. You will be resistant. And you will go, no. How dare you, you heathen? How dare you challenge? And then you're going to retreat in a corner, which then stops your growth, stops your expansion. How do we grow? Get multiple pieces of the puzzle. Get multiple soups. Get multiple types of cheesecake to expand your palate and make interconnection between how the construction was made, but what are the variation? Why are there variation? It is logical. It's just that we were not taught that way. And again, this is not to shout and point at the people that taught it that specific way. It's just to kind of have you understand how consciousness, collective consciousness, and our intelligence, our ability to process that information has dramatically grown and expanded compared to those institutionalized mindsets, as well as mediatically repeated. So, what do? Faith 2.0. You've got the internet, you've got time. So you gotta take that time. You gotta take that time and have the pleasure. It's about like having that hunger, playfulness, enthusiasm, as well as seeing it like game quests. Okay, quest number 1 for this whole week, I'm gonna listen to the Bhagavad Gita and pay attention to it, or you can just have it in the background. It'll link or it'll enter the subconscious. Trust me, this was my initial start with that. Just when I was still deep into the Matrix, okay, I'm playing a video game, let me put the Bhagavad Gita. Let me put Autobiography of a Yogi. Let me put The Art of War by Sun Tzu. Let me put The War of Art. Let me put some audiobooks to expand my consciousness and not stick to the one and done school, religion, and societal mentality. Because then you see what the one and done has done, especially in the recent 2 years, right? So we got to play around with this and understand that we are breaking out of old collective patterns, not generational things. Again, some people make it too big. It's just an attitude, a pattern of thinking. And now we're breaking out of it because we're like, yo, fuck that repetition. It ain't making people happy. And why in a day and age where we have access to all this comfort, are we still with depression and anxiety, right? Again, perception affected how it limits your expansion, your growth, your joy, your happiness, right? So at this point, just expand your mind and never judge yourself and anyone else, because you're just doing it from one point of perception out of billions. And you're doing it from data that changes every couple of fucking years. See how it all kind of loops in, right? Keeping us in a mental matrix, a mental prison. But once you kind of understand it logically, you kind of go, oh. See? And the documents are there. Even some late-ass declassified CIA experiments done in 1983 and only declassified in 2003. They really had our best interests, huh? Tesla was right. Go check out some of Tesla's work and interviews. There's some more things that can be brought out of it. But still, open your mind to this. Don't stay stuck with bullshit words like conspiracy theory. The data is out there. All is data. You have the intellectual capacity for discrepancies. So you can see the interconnected dots as well as what does not work. And that has been a godsend to me when I started looking at the multiple texts, because you can see the obvious influence at times, what was added by institutions to cause division, or a higher than thou, higher than mighty. When all logically, okay, wait. Here's the master key code, okay? Logically, you can understand that God created everything. God, universe, source, created everything and is in everything. It was said. Hell, even when it comes to Hinduism, prana. Oh, even in quantum physics, you go past the atom, different density of vibration. Ooh, what's this? So that means even in that neighbor that I don't like, yup. And the only reason you're really feeling bad about whether or not liking your neighbor or yourself, as I always say, it is a different variation of that same emotion, but it's telling you one message. You're not in unity between yourself and the world. Meaning, when you criticize someone else, you're still doing it from your perception. And from your perception, you are criticizing another part of God. I know it's tricky. It is really tricky. Hey, I'm still wrestling with that on certain subjects. There is no perfection, because we have been indoctrinated in counterintuitive and divisive ways. That's not the goal here. The goal here is basically having a conscious, logical understanding of it. And then have fun when it comes to playing with metaphysics, because when you have that stable anchoring and understanding and having that own personal repetition, again, you got to be your own best friend on that one. You, in general, become much lighter about it. You don't go to extremes. Again, you understand that the whole idea of extremes is just a concept, is just a fabrication. Because your perception of an extremity, of having it or not, is just your limitation. It's just, how do you say, a limited perception? Meaning, having an extreme for you maybe is something lower for someone else or higher or for someone else. You see what is being said? Again, back to the hot and cold example. The mental matrix loves, and this is where the extreme, the dialogue that we have, the popular McDonald of dialogue, okay? Always leaves things into extremes without nuances. So it becomes normal to think and perceive that way. But when you understand that logically, there are no extremes. It is just your perception forming an idea of what extremities are. But it's all gray zone. You can play in a concept of polarity, but when you stay into extremes, you miss out on the gray zone. And that is life. There's always new information. There's always expansion upon information. There is no stop to growth. Growth happens every bloody fucking second. You might not necessarily be aware of it. And if it's not happening in your vicinity, over 8 billion on this world, so it's happening somewhere else around the world every microsecond. Put that in your mental diet, please, so that you do not get stuck in a mental matrix, and share it with other people that are receptive. But please be compassionate for those who aren't, because hypnosis is a bitch. Constant repetition of extremities is non-consensual hypnosis, which we didn't necessarily know. And at the same time, maybe it's not directly that, because some people are not doing it willingly, not doing it like, don't blame the actors, do not blame the industry. It is just an unfortunate double-edged sword of our amazing plethora of entertainment. And of course, it's not all bad, because we can get some interesting, nifty tools that we can use to play with our intuition, play with our creativity. Like, our creative toolbox just gets more and more tools. But then there's more that can be done with that, which we can go on in another video, because this is very important. Do not ignore your imagination. As I keep saying, imagination is a throwaway word, a throwaway concept we were indoctrinated with, which does not talk about the entirety of what's going on behind that. Again, once you get up to date with quantum physics, and then you start linking it back to metaphysics and spirituality or the ancient texts, you start seeing that, oh shit! Oh, there's so much more to imagination. Hell, already the experiments that they're doing, both in quantum physics, neurology, physiology, about imagination. And you can press and replay my tape of the 3 groups that one learns directly, learns piano directly. The other learns through imagination, repeats the key through imagination. The other one doesn't do shit. All of that for a week. And after 1 week, the second group that did it with imagination, 1, they were able to play, and 2, they had the same neural connections made as the first group who practiced manually every day. So do not say that this is just a throwaway thing. Oh, I don't need to take care of that imagination. This is why I talk about your mental diet. Be aware that you are much more, and you can become even further when it comes to using your imagination, because your neurons will keep it. Also, remember, your body has memory. So if you keep watching out all those horror movies, or you keep watching, you could say, the gunk of the world, Fox News, news in general, well, then your body will keep that imagination because you didn't live it. You were told about it, just like Santa Claus, just like the boogeyman, but you did not live it. So it is still an imagination. You will keep that imagination in your mind and you will act and feel accordingly. Again, back to 9/11, general basic bitch blanket message to hate Arabs, and look at the bullying it created, right? Because a piece of imagination has been brought on to people. Oh, these are the source. This is directly that. Very quick association. Nothing to diffuse and say, well, you can't blame all Arabs. You can't blame everyone who follows the Quran. Again, how many people? Have you met that amount of people? And this is another big ass question to kind of break that mental matrix, okay? Because often people think that whatever's on the internet, whatever's on the news is definitely a collective representation of what's going on or what people are thinking. I'm sorry, how many are we online? How many are we online speaking English? 1.5 billion. We are around 5 billion online, and we are getting up to 8 billion on this planet. You really think and believe that everyone's following the same code, the same creed, the exact same way? What, you still didn't get the individual granularity of one person's experience? Let's go for your own experience. What have you ate this morning? How did that make you feel? Did you compare it to a previous breakfast that you had? Or something that you also preferred? How did that feeling impact the rest of your day? What have you thought while you were eating this? Or were you having your brain sucked out on some media thing? Right? How did then that day an interaction with coworker lead you to the middle of the day? How did it feel? Just take account, right? Feel. Okay, let's go with emotional feeling. Then sensation, tactile feeling while you were eating. How did it feel to taste these things? Did you even notice the nuances, right? Did you get inspiration for things that you would like to change in that breakfast to make it feel and taste a bit better? Come on, man. You can't remember the morning, or can you? See, all of these are nuances that you want to pay attention to because they are crucial in your own life experience. No one's gonna know if it led you to a bad mood. No one will know. You're the only one. So, when you understand this, you can't blanket label people's experience, religion, and anything. You can't even compare at this point. And also, you do not let whatever news media put an imagination in your mind for you to feel a certain way about people. Here's a personal example. I didn't follow media. While I was a game tester, at one point, the media started attacking the games industry, and that was the only time where I started to give a fuck about media in general. So what then started to happen was indirectly I was put against certain people that were called social justice warrior. Blanket label, right? Media had no compassion for them at all. So there was a blanket label and feeling that people with a certain kind of hair and a certain kind of demography were just Nazis in a way, because they were trying to use that reverse racism. The reverse racism was kind of fucked up when I saw that. I got angry because I'm like, yo, you're gonna attack a white person because he has dreads and you're gonna go with cultural appropriation? Fucking dumbass. Don't you know that the world expands by sharing, discovering, and then creating even further? Anyway, that was my dialogue at the time. But this was fostered by an imagination because I did not live it. I did not encounter it. But prior to encountering people like that, the image was already in my mind. So it was like, oh shit, meeting a person with blue hair am I gonna have to, talk a certain way? Am I gonna have to, useless fucking thoughts, right? impressed imagination. That's like, again, going back to believing in Santa Claus. And then guess what? If the thought kept continuing, I would have encountered those situations. I would have created those situations. Because my perception, affected by the news, this could have happened. And even worse, if I kept watching, I would have had visualization of encountering a person like that and talking them out, talking them to how it should be, without even getting context of why they were acting this way. And then eventually, a couple of years later, noticing, ooh, what's going on in the school system? Ooh, people are getting radicalized. I dodged a bullet with art degree. I dodged the fucking bullet. Art philosophy back in those days was like opening up to various things, but it wasn't getting militarized to fight the good fight and see the opposition to fight them. And even that is another mental prison. As soon as you find an opposition to fight, your focus is on the opposition to fight instead of them expanding, growing, and then helping people to expand and grow at the same time. Again, it's simple, logical mathematics. How much time am I going to put to fight this one enemy? How much growth and expansion is that going to create compared to clearly focusing on the latter? And of course, all of it has its balance, but you kind of get the drift, right? Anyhow, you've got this. The mental matrix is something that's been done and repeated for a certain amount of years, and especially in this Western culture. Yet, we're collectively waking up to it. As you saw with the absurdity of the last 2 years, and not necessarily loving to be neurolinguistically programmed without our consent, as well as noticing the hilarity and inconsistencies that we have been led to believe and forced to believe for an amount of time, as well as the massive amount of depressions and anxiety that were completely ignored by these same institutions that were leading those messages. So it's an inevitability. It's already done. That whole mental matrix, it's crashing. Now, this doesn't mean chaos. This simply means that more and more people are tapping into this aspect of unity and true compassion for each other. Not the basic bitch, cookie cutter media mentality of what compassion is, which is just this one and done. Oh yeah, I'm gonna put a little flag on my Facebook and show compassion. But repetition's a bitch, right? Hypnosis is a bitch when we don't necessarily perceive it. But you've got tools, you've got keys, you've got multiple types of explanation. Don't take this as the one and only way to perceive it. There are too many messengers now talking about this in different angles and different perspectives with different filters because of different lifetime of experience. So go choose what you prefer, play with that, stay open for the rest, but always see it as a, like, example this, oh, you didn't like that? Okay, what do you prefer? What kind of intonation do you prefer? What kind of explanation do you prefer? What kind of, I guess, terminologies? Like, just ask yourself and then go off and discover it and find that out. Because you're the only one who's gonna know your preferences. Use everything as a bounce off point and just keep joyfully bouncing from one piece of knowledge, one piece of data to another piece of data, and you'll eventually connect the dots. It's simple. It's inevitable. As soon as you're interested in it, it's done. It is complete. So that's practically all I can bring on this. It's gonna become easier and easier to break it because we can use the cheat codes of quantum physics and metaphysics to make it much faster and easier, using the law of attraction and all that. So play with this. Use cheat codes. Cheat codes is a cheeky way to bring it. It's your birthright. It's a natural process. You're either using it without knowing it, or you're actively using it like a video game player. All right? So you've got this. There's no pressure. There's no rush. And have fun with this. Feel free to ask any questions in the comment. You can even, if you're interested in more or longer lectures, talks, dissertations, as best as I can, you can check out the podcast Channeling Bits, link in the description, or you can even check out the TikTok for some 3 minutes blasts. And I might try it 1 minute, but it's quite tricky, as you saw, to explain deep context or deep concepts using the McDonald 1 minute type of way of explaining it. Kind of tricky, and well, fuck it. Challenges, right? Sometimes you just gotta play around and see what kind of comes out. All of it is kind of channeling true. And hey, that's a discussion for another topic. There's just so many boxes opening up with this that there is a certain layer of complexity to reality that once explored in becomes much simpler. So take your time, be at ease with it, and be playful. And again, have compassion for those who are still drinking the Kool-Aid, meaning those who are still feeling media or following media like it's a church. Have compassion. Do not call them sheep. Do not call them drones. Please, because as you now understand, repetition, hypnosis without consent, indoctrination can leave people in that anchored mindset. And at that point, it could be a life experience to just have consequences from that anchored, very anchored mindset. So help those who you can, but do not make it a need. Do not judge. Have that compassion. You see, it's not sticking to extremes and calling them sheeps and drones. It's just some are open for it, some are not. Do what you can and talk your truth, but do not be needy for everyone to accept. Okay? This is this interesting nuance that we're kind of playing with. Because you remember how the opposite was, right? Oh, I don't believe in everything that's that. It's conspiracy. Heathen! Heathen! Oh, we're not falling back into that. Let them have the experience and don't do it in a judgmental way. You see how much nuances there is to it? Instead of the programmed, institutionalized way where it's like, oh, if they don't follow, then they're assholes. They suck. They are a part of the problem. Nah, son. Now you know indoctrination and hypnosis is a bitch. So let's have that compassion. And we're all playing co-op. Cooperation by default. It's never been competition. Again, comparison, extremities, mental perceptions. See, it didn't really make sense. So ultimately, we're all playing co-op. All here to help each other. So let's fucking do this. Double fist bump. Double props. Triple high five. Triple times 2. And yeah, man, let's just play with this. Have fun. Thank you. Oh, thank you all again. I feel like an asshole, but I'm getting used to this. Again, you remember my trauma, so I'm getting used to this. Thank you for the donations. Those who have been kicking in with donations through the Linktree, the PayPal donations, and various other ways. Massive amount of thank yous. It took a while to kind of just, one, accept. Gotta clear that fucking root chakra. Still in the works, and maybe I'll make a video about that. And it also took a while to kind of go, let whatever flows flow true, and focus on helping people. So those two have become a bit of a easier to manage in the mind. And I am eternally grateful for those who have fought, left donations, doesn't matter what amount. Could be a fucking single dollar, which there has been too. Thank you. All of it helps because ultimately it is, has this helped you? Yes. Has this expanded you? Has this helped you expand? Yes? Okay, cool. My job is done. I'm not putting a paywall because this is shit I wish I learned in high school or even elementary school. Thinking and feeling 101. So I'm grateful to put it out there, and I'm grateful to all of you who donated. Any kind of amount. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. And I am opening up to receiving, much more, because man, internal traumas, again, the subconscious is this illogical thing, but once you get a hold on it, you can get it to open up. And now receiving has been much easier. Accepting that has been much easier. So you helped. It's always a mutual exchange. The comments, the donations, the sharing, all of it has been helping kind of declutter whatever trauma I had on that, So again, there's those factors and then some, because some of those donations led to thinking about something specifically that led to another realization that led to more expansion. So it's always co-op. So again, I thank you. And again, I'll try to blast some more stuff to help you guys and to help people around. Okay? So we got this. We're playing co-op and we're about to go pro gamer on the collective level. So have that fun, kick some asses, and let's kick it up. Thank you.